What is up, everybody? Nipple Comics here. Today we have the next match of the Tournament of Power. It is going to be Luffy, maxed out at Gear 4, versus Ganondorf from the Legend of Zelda series. But first, before we get into that, let's look at the results of the last match, which was Whitebeard versus Kenpachi. And Kenpachi is going to be moving forward to the next one. But with that out of the way, let's look at today's fight. So I'm not going to lie, this was a tough fight, mainly because I'm going to keep it a buck. I have never played a Zelda game before. The only Ganondorf I know is from Super Smash Bros. So I had to do quite a bit of research into Ganondorf, of like how powerful he is, and there are not very many straightforward answers to that. And there's different timelines and all that crap that Ganondorf can be a part of. So I wanted to make it easier on me and say that we're taking Ganondorf primarily from Tears of the Kingdom, who seems to be the most recent and most powerful, arguably. Now, I am going to bring up some stuff that he has done in other games as far as like magic use, but I don't think there's any reason to believe that he can't do it now or that what he's done before doesn't apply to his current state now. And since we're already talking about him, let's just get into his character fully. So Ganondorf is the Demon King, right? He wants to conquer Hyrule, which he manages to do multiple times, and is essentially the brilliant, cunning, big bad of the Legend of Zelda universe. As far as his actual power and abilities go, it's mostly magic based. Well, I guess it's like three main things, right? I'd say one is just like an overall corrupting influence that he has on things. Like he can cause natural disasters and corruption throughout the land. Next would probably be his magic use, right? And like offensive or defensive magic, being able to make shields, shoot different like lightning balls or different energy balls and stuff like that you got to do whenever you fight him. Your classic laser beams, but he also has things like mental manipulation. He has things like invisibility. He has things like levitation, telekinesis, a whole slew of abilities. There's actually just so much listed as far as powers go for this guy, like light and dark and soul manipulation and all that stuff, and his gloom powers and everything that's associated with that. There's a whole lot associated with the guy. And on top of that, he can also summon like massive armies and summon people to come fight for him. In this fight, in this tournament, I am not going to allow summoning. I'm not going to allow battlefield removal. Like, oh, he can just stick this guy in a different dimension. We're not going to do that because I think that's just kind of a cop out. It is going to be like a one-on-one actual fight. And I know one big thing about Ganondorf is he has immortality, and he can only be killed by like these holy weapons, and then when he dies, he can be resurrected and come back. And I get that some people say like, well, if he's immortal, that's an instant win, but you can beat somebody without killing them, right? That's like saying that Wolverine could win against Thor because Wolverine like won't die. It's like, no, obviously Thor would win because he would just beat the crap out of him. So that shouldn't be like a winning factor necessarily for Ganondorf. What would be a winning factor for him, though, is again just overall power output. So we know that he is an extremely powerful being. We don't have a lot of numbers to go off of it, but we know that his magic's incredibly powerful, able to alter things like the moon. We've seen him survive things like different castles crashing upon him, that's like a large castle. It's got to be something like a city level attack. He's defeated other powerful godly beings like the sages in the Zelda universe, beating them all at once. He's been able to mentally dominate different people, right, and possess them. And again, like I said, able to cause different natural disasters and things like that by like just his mere presence or corrupting influence. We also know hand-to-hand and sword combat he is proficient. He has a few weapons that he can alternate between, like in the middle of a fight, that he seems skilled at. And we know that he can use his magic to enhance his attacks, to make his hits and everything more powerful. We also know he's fast enough to contend with someone like Link, right? Being able to dodge his attacks even whenever he's slowing down time. He's also dodged light arrows and things like that. And some people would say that's like a faster than light feat. And Luffy's got a similar one, but I don't know if that's exactly how I would equate that. But some people are probably going to say that. Regardless, at the end of the day, we're saying Ganondorf is a very powerful person. But more so than just power as far as like strength and durability and things, he has a very versatile array of ways to affect and damage other people, from natural effects, natural disasters, to all sorts of different magical attacks that he can do, and then summoning if this was a different fight, but we're not doing summoning. And then I will say that he can go into his like Demon King red-haired mode that he goes into in Tears of the Kingdom, which I'm assuming, I guess, magic is stronger, he's more powerful. Kind of the basic thing that comes with the power-up. And sort of the one kind of thing that's in your face about this is the fact that he loses to Link like every time. And that seems kind of like a pretty major factor downplaying his strength. But we won't sit here and pretend that Link is just the average person, or that like video game logic is like real, right? And it can be 100% relied on. Switching gears over to Luffy, he's obviously the main protagonist of the One Piece universe. Luffy is extremely powerful. He's been climbing the ranks to be one of the most powerful people in the One Piece universe. And at the current state, he is one of the 4 warlords. But we're going to turn it back a little bit, because that's with his Gear 5 after he defeats Kaido. We are not going to be including Gear 5, 1, because it's a little ridiculous, and 2, because I don't think we know the full extent of what it does anyway. So we're going to say that Gear 4 is going to be our max. So looking at Luffy, he's pretty much a pure physical brawler character. Whenever he fights somebody, it's just 2 strong guys who beat the crap out of each other until one of them wins, and it's almost always Luffy, even if it takes a few tries. The main premise of his powers comes around his devil fruit, the Gum Gum fruit, which allows his body to grow and stretch like rubber. And doing this, he can throw punches and kicks at extreme speed and strength, and he can also tank some attacks like electrical attacks, for example, because rubber does not conduct electricity. And he also has access to the 3 different types of hockey: Conqueror's Hockey, Observation Hockey, and Armament Hockey. Observation Hockey is pretty much precognition. Armament Hockey, you're able to harden parts of your body to be able to like take sword strikes and stuff like that. And then Conqueror's Hockey is sort of just an aura of power to where like a lesser weak-minded person might just pass out if you're in their presence. But on top of all that, Luffy has his gears that he goes into. Gear 2, he pretty much dopes blood throughout his body using his rubber skin, and allows him to go super, super fast. Gear 3, he enlarges parts of his body, so he's just doing big, giant, massive damage. And then Gear 4 has different techniques that he uses, but for the most part, a lot stronger, a lot faster, enlarging his body, and he's integrating his hockey into his attacks. He can also essentially fly in some of these forms by essentially snapping his rubber body and creating a shockwave, allowing him to propel himself. And he has many notable attacks in this form, like conch, gun, and different types of guns, essentially. What it boils down to is him rearing back and punching really, really, really hard. Able to send very powerful beings like warlords and even emperors flying, with the destructive capability of that being like at least island level, if not continent plus. Like we saw against Doflamingo, his island was pretty much ravaged by that fight against Luffy, and he's only gotten more powerful from them, even being able to go toe-to-toe with Kaido in Gear 4. Even though he can't beat him in Gear 4, we still see him perform extremely impressively against this person who, at the time, is like one of, if not the most powerful person in the One Piece universe. Definitely the most powerful person Luffy has fought up until then. We've also seen Luffy dodge quote-unquote light speed attacks from Kuma, the robot version, after the 2-year time skip. And we've, of course, seen him tank insane damage over the years, right? Notably, again, taking hits from people like Kaido, people like Doflamingo, people like Katakuri, beings who are on the upper echelon of power within this universe. So pitting these two together, I think that both of them are going to be fighting very differently. Because I think Luffy is like an extremely in-your-face physical fighter, whereas Ganon is kind of not quite the same way. I think he definitely does fight up close sometimes, like a lot of sword fighting or something like that, which is probably not going to help him out here. But I think he's more of a versatile fighter, integrating magic attacks and different types of telekinesis or teleportation or something like that to kind of try and control the battle more. And he's also extremely intelligent and very combat intelligent, and Luffy is kind of stupid. So that may be an advantage here if Ganondorf is able to control the fight and fight the way he wants to, whereas Luffy, I think, is going to try to muscle through and just hit him until he stops moving. Now, magic isn't really a thing in the One Piece universe, so it's hard to say how much magic would have an effect on Luffy, or like could Luffy break through a magic shield created by Ganondorf. We don't really know. We do know though, up close in a physical fight, Luffy almost certainly has the advantage. Speed wise, Luffy almost certainly has the advantage, though Ganondorf isn't a slouch. Luffy almost certainly is faster. And even though Luffy does have sort of precognition, I don't know how much that would help against a flurry of magic attacks, different projectiles and ground attacks and things like that. Durability wise, too, it's hard to say who has the advantage. I think we've definitely seen more from Luffy when it comes to durability. But with Ganondorf, it's like we know the guy's functionally immortal, always comes back to life even if he is defeated, and it takes multiple strikes from this heavenly divine sword to put him down. We know he's survived different, again, castle collapses and explosions and things like that throughout the years. But how does that scale to being hit by Kaido with his club? How does that scale? What my gut is telling me about this fight is that Luffy has the physical advantages when it comes to just speed and power output. But Ganondorf has such a advantage, one, with intelligence, and two, with versatility, that I don't know if it's something that Luffy could overcome, especially right with this being their first encounter. The magic may prove to be too much. Because Luffy's never fought someone like this before, right? He's never fought somebody with magic and who is not just doing a straight like head-to-head fight. Most people who fight Luffy are fighting head-to-head. Maybe they've got some ranged attacks or they're like a Logia type user so they can do some different stuff, but at the end of the day, they're each trying to punch each other as hard as they can, but Ganon's not exactly like that. Again, up close, I don't think the sword play or anything from Ganondorf is going to put much of a dent into Luffy. So it all comes down to if Luffy can pierce Ganondorf, if he can move fast enough, hit hard enough to get through his defenses, dodge his attacks, and do enough damage to him, which I don't think's out of the question. I think in just a fair fight, Luffy should wipe the floor with him, but I think Ganon's going to do whatever he can to make it as not fair for Luffy as possible. Let me know who you guys think will win. As always, with these, we let you all vote and pick the champion to move forward in our bracket. Go over to my communities page and vote on who you think will win and who's going to move forward to the next fight. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one.